Well, greetings friends and welcome back. Today we're looking at the Orca, which is there in the distance behind me. But before we do that, I just wanted to talk about the tourist spaceport and some of the scale of a few things in here. Spoilers, everything is a little bit too small, but check out where I'm standing. So there's my Orca there in the background, and I'm standing on the hand of this enormous statue, the one female and one male that are sort of back to back there. Clearly they are commanders. You can see on the back of the male one the connectors. Well, to give you the scale, so here's the hand that I am standing on physically, and each one of her fingers is probably taller than I am. I would say more than 6 feet in height, and they are about this wide in terms of thickness. So it is a gigantic statue, which is always funny because you're looking at these things from such a distance, they look pretty tiny. And if we were to try and stand on the floor, I'm sure it'll glitch out and won't let me. So here we're floating probably 12 feet off the ground, and you can see how tall she is. She's an absolute monster. So the statue I would estimate is maybe 70 to 80 meters in height. So that gives you an idea of how big those statues are, and obviously there's a repeat there just under her armpit on the other side. In terms of the parks and things that are around here, they're okay in terms of scale. Sorry, there's going black all the time. It just doesn't let you get very close to the ground here. Those park benches are of a reasonable length. They're probably 1.5 meters long, but they're only about that high. So everything's kind of squished a bit strangely in these starports. Now the trees do look about the right height for a tree, but we're standing up here on this overpass, which is glitching the heck out of itself, as you can see when we get close. And you're probably wondering about the scale, or at least I am, about the scale of these vehicles coming around. And they're close. They're a little bit too small. You can obviously see that the wheels don't actually turn. They're just a very low-res sort of model. But they're relatively close in terms of scale. The bus is quite low. It's probably 60% the height of a city bus. Those trucks that go past are about 70% the height of a truck. So not completely wrong, but certainly not 100% accurate either. But at the same time, we have this stack of presumably 20-foot shipping containers, and they're not too far off the correct scale there. Not 100% right, but maybe, again, about 80% of the size that they actually should be. And as for the interiors of these sort of command buildings or traffic buildings, whatever they are, that door over there would come out to about there on me. So it's definitely too small. So a lot of this is just too small for what it's designed to do, and it would definitely need to be made bigger if they were to do this legit. Anyway, back to the ship. I just thought it'd be interesting to show you that little bit of a glimpse at how big that thing over there actually is, which is, gargantuan. So much like the other Kruger interiors, this one is very nicely appointed, but kind of a bit bare. So we'll start over here. We have a couple of probably air vents for the commander to actually get some airflow. Reasonably low detail underneath, but again that sort of strange color pink wall like we saw in the dolphin video. If you haven't seen that one, there's a link above. Information here talking about Kruger as the manufacturer, and the standard sort of display. This one's about 70 centimeters in diameter for the main projector, and the ones on the side are about the size of a regular dinner plate as per normal. Towards the front of the console we have this very large bent display, which actually starts up here and goes all the way down there, presumably all the way to the end. So that in theory then is a displayed icon rather than a sticker or a sign. But maybe it also ends here because there's a bit of a indentation there. I don't know if you can see that. Who knows? Anyway, the old classic Kruger low texture but cool bent displays are very present here in the Orca. This one is so low that you can't even see it. And over here we have some, I don't know what the sort of material this is, maybe some carbon fiber that's colored blue but with a strange pattern. Coming further over towards the co-pilot chair, oh hang on a minute, hello Commander Headless, forgot to do that. Coming over here towards the pilot chair, we have some information here that's too low res to read. Kruger systems pointing at a circle. It's a classic Kruger thing. There's really nice looking displays, but they're completely illegible in terms of the information that they actually tell you. Some more events down there, and that's about it really. And to give you a rough idea of that center console, so it would, if it started here, then it would come up the slope there, it would run all the way along here, and then come up to this section there, and then flatten off until it keeps going along towards the front of the nose there. And as we've popped ourselves out the front of the ship, you can see that the Orca suffers from the same thing that the Dolphin does, which is that they've popped the whole thing kind of in a bit so that they can have the black canopy on the outside, which then disappears if you go into this interior view. We can't really get too much further away from it, but you can see that there's a good sort of 4 to 5 inch gap where that black exterior just covers all of this so that you can't see this from the outside. One of the bizarre Kruger features. Now the camera has actually let me get all the way down to the ground, so I'm standing precisely on the ground as we currently are. In terms of size of this ship, it's probably a good 80 to 100 meters in length as my estimate, and that side there appears to be a very large hatch that would come down. It would definitely reach all the way to the floor, probably just in front of where I'm standing, to allow passengers and presumably cargo to embark. I've always wondered about those orange things there behind the window. It looks to me like a gigantic Meccano set strapped together, for those of you who remember Meccano. But each one of those things is probably 4 meters long by about I don't know, 30 centimeters or a foot wide. So they're just really huge panels of some description, not sure what they're supposed to be for. And you can see the reflective graphics there are glitching the heck out of themselves in this place. And there at the front, that entire black section down the bottom is where the commander sits and what is actually removed when you go to the exterior camera. Now this whole deck, much like the Dolphin, is very large and very bare. There is a fire extinguisher all the way over there that I will not be able to get to because it just won't let me. It's about 1.5 feet in terms of its size. There's another panel up there which is the same as in the Dolphin, I believe, just showing what looks like a system map. And the ceiling, which is, fairly devoid of anything interesting, more of that pinky purpley paneling there right at the top. Now at the rear of this section, we have another one of the same displays that we saw in, or a similar display to what we saw in the Dolphin. It is extremely low res. Not sure who would be operating it or what they'd be doing on it, but well, there you have it. Now the single door to get into this area is all the way over there, but there's no camera that will actually allow me to get all the way over there, so I'm just going to have to shove my head through the rear. So heading through this wall, we will see just the interior of the Orca itself. Now, it does seem like a very long ship. That large landing gear at the end there seems like a good 80, maybe 100 meters away, all the way to the back of the ship. And you can see there the 2 hard points and the one single hard point there in front. The landing gear there is quite interesting though, because it goes directly into the center of the ship and quite high. It sort of goes halfway through that top deck. So obviously that would need to be changed, or a whole housing created around it in order to justify its size in spacelegs version, when and if spacelegs actually comes. And in terms of height, it's hard to see because the sides don't render towards the front for some reason, but the height all the way to the top of where the roof would be for the Orca is a good probably 3 stories high, all the way to the ceiling of the 3rd story would be how high it would be from where I'm standing, and I'm about balcony of the 2nd story, so probably 4 to 5 stories in terms of building height would be how tall this thing is standing there on the launch pad. And finally, the commander and pilot chairs do not move by the looks of things. They're just in situ there at the front, and we have some carpeting that actually looks like it's got some wear on it, which is pretty cool. And if I stick my head through the floor and we give it a bit of a launch, let's see where the landing gear comes up and into the hull before it disappears. If we deploy the landing gear again, you can see that it actually sits all the way inside the roof of the Orca. So yeah, wow, that would definitely need some attention on it before that can be made into an actual proper mechanic. If we retract it again, you can see it's going all the way into the roof of the Orca itself. So that entire center section, and indeed the two rear sections where the landing gear are, would actually be totally useless as far as passenger is concerned, because there's giant landing gear inside them. Wow. And I hate to say it, I'm not really trying to poo-poo the Orca, but that's kind of it. I mean, it's a very plain interior. The hard points are nothing to write home about. The landing gear is a bit janky. I don't really like it as a ship, but if it's your favorite ship, then I hope that I've given you some insights into the size of it, or at least, if nothing else, the size of the stuff around it inside the tourist-heavy starport. So I hope you enjoyed that one. Please subscribe. It costs you nothing. It's one click away, and it really makes a big difference for me. So thank you for clicking, and I'll see you in the next one. Fly safe, Commanders.